ever find yourself fearful of being embarrassed or even humiliated in public? Well, this is a very common fear. And today I want to talk about something that happened to me while shopping at Panera Bread. And I want to talk about how I handled it and then deconstruct what I did systematically so you could potentially use some of these tactics when you find yourself in a situation similar to this. So I was home for Thanksgiving in the Midwest, and it was my responsibility to pick up the bread for the meal. So I decided I was going to go get some challah bread loaves from Panera Bread. And as I walk in, it's very busy, and I see there's a big long line to the area where people buy meals. And then it appeared there were also some registers right by the bakery, but there's no one in line there. So I decided I'd go kind of stand by the bakery and see if I could get some help, get some attention, and order my bread. And if not, find out that indeed the line that everyone is in was the line for both the bakery and the regular food. So I begin to stand there, and I see one guy kind of off to the left in between the two sections making some drinks. And I continue to stand there, and now I've been there long enough that it's to the point that either I'm in the wrong place or this guy's trying not to help me. So I walk up over to him and I say, "Hey man, are you?" And before I could even get through, he says, "Hey, I'm making these drinks. Just wait a minute." And before he finishes, I cut him off again and say, No, listen man, all I want to know is, do you work in the bakery? And he says, "Yes." I say, "Okay, cool, thanks." So I handled it right there, and we'll talk about what I did here at the end of this. But after that, an older lady comes up, and she approaches this guy and says, "Hey, is this where you?" And he says, "Hey, can't you see I'm making these drinks right now? I'll help you in a little bit." So I went over to her and I said, "Hey," I said, "listen," I went and said the same thing to him, and I was scolded just the same. And then I raised my voice to the level that the majority of people in Panera could hear me. And I said, "Hey man, you don't really like helping people out when you're making drinks, do you?" So now everyone stops, it gets very quiet in there, everyone turns to him, the spotlight's on him, and he gets very nervous, he kind of stammers a little bit, and he goes, No. And I say, "Listen man, it's okay, it's all right, just watch your tone a little bit." Okay, so that was the entirety of the scenario. So let's deconstruct it. So this guy is used to being able to be short with people when they come up to him and he's doing other things. I'm sure he's like that in other scenarios because he knows that the minute that he addresses that in a short way with you, that you're going to feel the social pressure, and most people are just going to back off and think, "Oh, that guy's a little rude." But he's going to feel kind of good because he handled it in a way that gave him some authority, I guess, in that situation. But I've been in situations like this many times before, so I know that, I don't know, maybe 10% of the time, someone will be rude when you ask them a simple question if they can. So before he was even able to finish talking and saying, "Hey man, can't you say I'm making these drinks?" I interrupted him and said, No, that's not what I'm asking. Do you work in the bakery? Okay, so now you're throwing him off his game. He has to answer your question because you're asking in a very strong way, and it's a question that makes sense. So after that, the situation would have been handled, and I would have felt fine about it, and it would have been done. But then when this nice old lady comes up, or older lady, and says the same thing to him, and he's even more rude to her, that's just not cool. Like, that's something that I don't feel good about. I don't feel like that kind of stuff should occur. So I felt motivated to handle it. So how I'm going to handle it? Well, I'm going to show empathy to her and say, "Hey, listen, I did the same," kind of laughing about it to show I'm not worked up. If I would have gone over to her and said, "Hey, I said that to him too, and he was really rude to me too," well, then it's just kind of like a pity party, and no one feels good. It's just, you get together and you feel bad going out of there, and you tell people when you get home, "Man, you wouldn't believe how rude someone was." So I went over to her, I said, "Hey, listen," I tried to get his attention too, and I was scolded just the same way. Using the word scold kind of lightens it up even a little bit more. So she kind of laughed. She saw me. She saw I was very calm. She's like, "Yeah." Then, just to kind of show this guy that this is not cool to treat people like that, I decided to put the social pressure times 10 back on him. Because in environments where there's waiters or waitresses or bartenders, they're used to exerting social pressure, and they're used to standing up to a little social pressure because they know when they draw that attention in and put it on someone else, they're really not feeling that social pressure. They're directing it towards someone else. So I felt like it was time to turn the mirror around and direct it to him. So I raised my voice, not yelling, just really a lot of air. And I said, "Hey man, you don't really like helping people out when you're making drinks, do you?" Boom! All the pressure's on him, and he's not used to that. He doesn't want that. So he's embarrassed, he's stammering, he's turning red. He's like, before he can do that, I exert authority. I diffuse the situation by saying, no, listen, man, it's okay. It's okay. So anytime you tell someone it's okay, you're coming from a position of authority, right? Especially when they're in a position that hearing that from you is going to calm their nerves. Because this guy's so rattled right now. Anytime anyone says anything to him, he's going to leech onto it. He's going to jump onto it to break out of that social pressure that he's experiencing. So I said, listen, man, it's okay. It's okay. You really got to watch your tone. So you're telling him what he should do. You're letting him know that it's not cool to treat people like that. And you're letting him know with the social pressure of everyone in the restaurant looking at him. So that he backs off. This lady feels much better because this guy was put in his place. We both feel like we weren't disrespected. I think this guy was called to his attention. Maybe he was being more rude than he thought. I don't know. Maybe he just thought he could get away with that. But I feel like that was a really good example of something that happens or something similar can happen all the time in public. And I think that was a pretty good way of handling it. I felt good at the end of it, and I know that she felt good, and he probably felt, a little bit reprimanded. I'm sure he was probably a little shaken up for the next few minutes, but I'd rather him be shaken up and reassess everything that he did as opposed to 10, 15 more people coming in throughout the rest of the day and leaving the store feeling poorly because this portly man decided that he wanted to exert his little bit of influence and put other people down. So think about that. Think about how you might be able to use that in a situation that's not exactly like that. But anytime you're confronted with social pressure by someone who is either working in an establishment or just someone else in the establishment, think of how you could maybe turn that around to not fold to the social pressure, but also put the social pressure back on them even stronger to exert your influence and exert your authority. Until next time.